Welcome to Cat and Jess Talk the Best, where we're going to be talking about IMDb's top 250 movies from April 12th, 2018. My name is Kat.
And I'm Jess.
And today we are talking about number 185, It Happened One Night, which is a romantic comedy from 1934. It has an 8.1 on 86,722 votes. So the mystery line from Platoon was, I believe in long, slow, deep, soft, wet kisses that last 3 days. And that is from Bull Durham. Nobody was able to get that one right.
I don't know if I've seen that movie.
I haven't seen that movie, but I've heard that line.
That makes sense.
Obviously prior to this, but...
Yeah.
2 colors left. We have red and light blue.
Red.
Alright. The line is, the stuff that dreams are made of. And if you would like a hint, it is from a movie that we have previously talked about. Like a full episode, not just like mentioned in passing. So, make sure you take your time and think about that one. Take a guess on it. Spoiler-free synopsis. In Frank Capra's acclaimed romantic comedy, spoiled heiress Ellie Andrews impetuously marries the scheming King Westley, leading her tycoon father to spirit her away on his yacht. After jumping ship, Ellie falls in with a cynical newspaper reporter, Peter Warne, who offers to help her reunite with her new husband in exchange for an exclusive story. But during their travels, the reporter finds himself falling for the feisty young heiress.
So, this is directed by Frank Capra. He's directed 2 other movies on our list that I found so far. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which we're going to get at number 146. It's a Wonderful Life at number 24. And Arsenic and Old Lace.
Which we have mentioned before with it having been previously on the list, but not when we did the list.
Yeah. And this stars Clark Gable, Claudette Colbert, and Walter Connolly.
Yep. So the ratings on IMDb, 29.9% of users rated this at an 8. Metacritic, it has an 87. Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 98 on 57 critical reviews. 2 of the Fresh, Kate Cameron. This direction is excellent. Frank Capra never lets his picture lag for a moment. It is never very exciting, but it moves along snappily and is full of amusing situations. I can agree with that for the most part.
I can too.
So Peter Bradshaw, as buoyant and elegant as bubbles in a glass of champagne, Frank Capra's sublime 1934 comedy survives triumphantly because of its wit, charm, romantic idealism, and its shrewd sketch of married life. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
John C. Mosher for Rotten is the only one. The picture is pretty much nonsense and quite dreary, except for natural touches of the habits of travelers.
I'm guessing this person's not a big comedy fan.
I guess not.
That's what I'm getting from it.
So the consensus. Capturing its stars and director at their finest, It Happened One Night remains unsurpassed by the countless romantic comedies it has inspired. I will agree with that.
That I completely agree with.
So the money. The only thing I could find was the budget, which was $325,000. That's all I could find.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
it?
that's it.
Crazy.
So the awards, this did win 5 Oscars. It had 5 other wins and 2 other nominations. So the Oscars that it won all of them that it was nominated for, which is one of the few movies to do so, especially for the best 5 Oscars you could, like the top 5. So it won Best Picture, Best Actor in a Leading Role, Clark Gable, Best Actress in a Leading Role, Claudette Colbert, Best Director, Frank Capra, and Best Writing for an Adaptation, Robert Riskin. Because this was based on a short story that I did not find until this morning.
Oh, did you actually find the short story?
I did find it.
Oh, wow. I didn't.
It's 200 pages, like 201. And I found it this morning, and I was going to try and read it, but I had 20 minutes, so...
I don't think you can do that.
No, I'm not that fast of a reader. But if you are curious about the book, it is online in certain places. So, the National Board of Review, this was awarded Best Film and also Top 10 Films. The National Film Preservation Board in 1993, it was put on that registry. And then the Online Film and Television Hall of Fame in 2006, this was inducted into that Hall of Fame. And then also the PGA Awards in 2001, this was also put in that Hall of Fame. So, that's all of the awards. And like I said, this is one of the few to actually have been nominated for the top 5 Oscars that you can be nominated for, as well as win them all. I think there's only like one other movie that's done that.
There's, I think, 2 others.
Oh, 2 others now?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a hard thing to do.
It's a very hard thing to do.
So, initial thoughts. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
I can go first,
Okay.
since this is more of my forte anyways. So, I'd never seen this before, but I saw that Clark Gable was in it, and I'm like, yay, Clark Gable, I love his work. So, I was excited. And I'm like, and it's a comedy. So, of course, like, I'm all in. And I'm like, okay, 1930s, we'll see what kind of comedy this is. I really, really like this movie. I was laughing most of the time. Just, like, there's, like, little things, too, that you catch. And I'm like, what? I'm like, wow. They put that in there. Okay, great. You know? Some things you're, like, amazed that they put in for the 1930s. I think it was a little bit ahead of its time, too. I will say that.
Yeah, I can agree
And,
with that.
and I feel like it inspired so many other things. And I can see where, like, all these other, like, romantic comedies try to, like, get things from this movie, and they fall short. This movie is, like, top notch. And I don't think it's really a romantic comedy. I really don't. It's more of a comedy to me. There really isn't much romance in this movie. Not really.
It's not really romances of today's standards. It's more of, like... I feel like it was more realistic romance rather than the crazy, love at first sight crap.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, I really, really liked this movie. I did. I was very happy I'm very happy this is on the list. I really am. I'm really glad I was able to see this movie. And then, of course, there's great acting throughout the movie. Great acting.
Yeah, I will agree with that. I will agree that I'm glad I watched it. I will say that if it wasn't for this, I never would have watched it. Partially because I didn't know it existed. Actually, that's a lie. I did know it existed because I had seen something about it. I don't know. But I never would have watched it without this. And I definitely do agree with, like, the consensus that other romantic comedies, even, I will say, a couple of movies that we've already watched on our list have this type of feel, like, kind of like they were trying to imitate this. The Before trilogy, I feel like took a lot from this movie.
Oh, yeah. I would agree with that. We would.
And I do think it is a romantic comedy, but it's not like the ones that we're used to now. And I feel like that's why I think it's better than I thought it was going to be. Because I did enjoy it for the most part, except for when I fell asleep.
For like 10 minutes.
Yeah, for like 10 minutes. I think it was 10 minutes. I don't really know. But when we get to that part, I'll just let you take over for that. I don't feel like I missed a lot of the movie, but I did miss something, so.
And I think it was a great time length. It wasn't too long.
Yeah.
It wasn't too short. It was just right.
There was some points where I was a little bit getting bored, but that's just kind of the content of it, because I'm not big on either romance or comedy movies. But I will admit that the acting is great. The story is interesting. Not really one that I would normally enjoy. Like, I wouldn't seek out something like this, but it was good. And I'm not upset that I watched it. Like some movies.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Alright, that was your warning. If you haven't watched the film yet, then stop listening and come back after you've watched it. So we start off on a boat. And this woman is super upset because her dad won't let her go see her husband. Or her soon-to-be husband or something. I don't know if they're married yet or if they're about to get married or what.
They are married.
Oh, okay. So, he's like, he goes down there and he's talking to her and stuff, and he has the people bring her food, and she doesn't want the food, and it's fun. I thought this part was kind of funny, because she's like glaring at the guys bringing the food, and they're so scared they don't want to go in there. I'm like, that's funny. I thought that was kind of funny.
It honestly reminded me of you for a second.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, I've seen that look on people's faces before. But so her and her dad are arguing because her dad didn't want her to marry King, but she did it anyways, and now she's like being held captive by her dad. But it's funny because she's 21, or at least 21, because she mentions something about them both being over 21.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that's weird. But I feel like that's just something you have to look past for this movie. Because if you focus on the fact that she's 21, then none of this movie, in my mind, should take place.
No, but this is also the 1930s. And also the dad is, like, very, very rich.
Yeah, but still, it shouldn't take place.
Oh, I know.
But I just kind of had to ignore the fact that she was 21. I was just kind of, like, throughout it, I was just thinking, okay, she's not that old. Should barely be married, is what I just put in my head. I'm like, that's the age I'm going to say she is. I don't care that she said she's 21. I had to ignore it, or I wouldn't have been able to get through it. But so her and her dad are fighting, and then she goes and runs and jumps off the boat. I was like, okay.
Yeah, she just jumps off and swims away.
I will admit I wasn't expecting that.
I was, but that's me.
So, we see the train station, and then we get to meet, what's his name?
Clark
Warne.
Gable's character, Peter.
Yeah, Peter. I was trying to think. It's like, I even wrote his name down.
We don't say his name for a while, so
Yeah.
I just wrote down for now Clark Gable character.
I don't know what I wrote down. Oh, man. I wrote down man.
And I'm like, I'm like, that's Clark Gable. This is like 5 years before Gone with the Wind. So
Yeah.
I was like, I recognized him like immediately.
Yeah. I just wrote man and woman for most of it until they said their names. Because I didn't know their names. I was like, okay. And I wasn't thinking about the actors in it. Just because, like, I do recognize Clark Gable, but not really Claudette Colbert. But I was just, like, not really thinking of their names. I was just like, what are the people's names in the movie? Like, okay, I'm just going to write man and woman. That works.
It works. It does technically work, I mean.
Yeah. So Peter is on the phone, and there's, like, a bunch of people standing around the phone booth in the train station. And he's on the phone with a newspaper in New York, because that's where he was working, but the newspaper guy, I'm guessing, fired him.
Yeah, he gets fired, and he fakes that, oh, you know what, I quit.
Yeah.
Because they can't hear the other end.
Yeah. So then he goes and gets on the bus, and he's, like, walking to the back, because that's, like, the only seat left is in the back, and there's newspapers sitting in that very last seat. So he picks them up and throws them off the bus.
Just tosses them out the window. They're like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
It's like, I need a seat.
And then we get this whole entire little argument here with the bus driver. And his response to everything is, oh, yeah. And I'm like, oh, please shut up. Like, stop saying that. Because my responses would have been the same as Peter's. I just would have kept talking. Because, oh, yeah, really bothers me. I don't know why. Like, I wouldn't have said what I said if I didn't mean it, so why are you saying, oh, yeah? Like, just, no.
I swear, you're Peter.
He's very sarcastic. I liked him a lot. He reminded me of Cabiria from the Knights of Cabiria. Her sarcasticness.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
So, while he's arguing with the bus driver, Ellen, whatever her name is.
Ellie.
Ellie, okay.
I just call her Ellie. Call it good.
She takes the seat that Peter was going to take. He turns around and sees her, and he picks up her bag and makes her hold her bag. So we've got some kind of banter back and forth between the two of them, and then they get up to a rest stop, and they're at the rest stop for like 15 minutes. And she's standing outside the bus, and we see this man kind of sneaking up behind her, and he steals her suitcase. And Peter sees this, and he, like, starts running at Ellie while the man is starting to steal it. And she thinks that he's, like, gonna take her out, but he runs the opposite direction. And that reminded me of Get Out, if you haven't seen that movie.
I have not.
It's a great movie.
I have not seen it.
There's just one scene in Get Out that it reminded me of.
Okay.
Then they get back on the bus, and everybody's sleeping.
She sits in a different spot instead of
Yeah.
sitting with Peter. And she's sitting like this big guy, and he falls asleep, and he just like lays on her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, I know that feeling anywhere.
And so she, like, turns around and sees Peter back there with the seat open next to him. And he's pretending to be asleep. So she gets up and moves back there. And then falls asleep on him.
Yeah, like super cuddly and everything.
Yeah. So then they get to their breakfast stop. And she wakes up and realizes she was laying on him. And at first she's like, doesn't really care. And then she realizes what was going on. And she's like, oh, I need to get off this man.
She's like, my bad. My bad.
Yeah. So they go to have breakfast, and she tries to convince the bus driver to stay because she has to go somewhere else for breakfast, not where he dropped them off.
It's like she has to go to the Windsor Hotel.
Yeah, that's it. And it's going to take longer to get over there and back than everybody else, like their 30-minute timeline or whatever. And then, so she comes back and is looking for the bus, but it has left. It left without her.
It's like, no bus. And Clark Gable's character, Peter, well, you don't know his name yet, but it's Peter. He's sitting there just watching her because he missed the bus with her, too.
Here's another name I called him, Sarcastic Guy.
Sarcastic Guy.
Yeah, I wrote that down.
I like it. I do.
So I called him till I figured out his name, too. First it was Man, then it was Sarcastic Guy, and then it was Peter.
And he's sitting in there, and she's like, he has to give her back her ticket because she just dropped it because she's a mess.
Yeah. So, because the next bus isn't coming till like 8 p.m. or something like that.
Yeah, like a whole other 12 hours later.
Yeah. So, he's, I guess, at this point, kind of figured out who she is. Like, not really 100%, but he knows, like, she's on the run and stuff.
Her name's in the paper.
Oh, okay. So he did figure out who she was.
Yeah, because there's, her name's in the paper. It's got her name. It's got a picture of her. And it's saying, hey, bring her back or something like that. And everything. Yeah. And he gives her so much shit. And I love it.
Yeah. And she's like, please don't tell my dad.
She's like, I'll pay you. And he just goes off on her about her. He's like, I was trying to just be a nice person. I don't want your freaking money. That's all you people worry about is your money.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, snap. Love it.
He sends a telegram to his old boss at the newspaper saying that he has a story. But he's not going to tell exactly what it is. Because he wants to kind of pitch the idea in person, I guess. But they end up getting on another bus. And Ellie ends up sitting next to this harassing guy.
His name's Shapely.
His name's what?
Shapely.
Oh. When did they say that?
He says it.
Oh. I must have missed it because he was talking really fast.
Yeah, I caught it. Because that's kind of like an old, vaudeville trick is talking really fast.
Yeah.
And I like watching vaudeville stuff, so I
also
got
found
it.
him very annoying, so... But so he's harassing Ellie and talking all this stuff, I don't even know. Just kind of being annoying.
Talking
I kind of started tuning him out. He says, he's annoying. I don't want to listen to him anymore. And Peter sees this and he walks over and says, hey, can I sit next to my wife? And the guy's like, oh. He switches seats with him. And Peter's sitting next to Ellie again. And she's like, why did you do that? And he's like, I'm just trying to help you out and stuff.
He gives her shit about her money. He's like, well, how much money do you have? And everything. He's like, you need to stop spending your money.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get to New York, that's not going to last.
Yeah, because she's like $2 left and she's trying to buy a chocolate bar.
It's like, no, you need to stop.
So, they're going along and everybody's having fun on the bus and stuff. Like singing and all kinds of stuff. Which I just think back to when I was little going on band trips and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
When they wouldn't let us have our instruments out in the bus. Like they told us we had to had to keep our instruments put away. We weren't allowed to have them out. And then I see this and I'm like, they don't have to put their instruments away.
It's like, I was part of the dorky band kids who just sang. We made up our own things and the song they were singing I actually recognized.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I actually know that song. I was like, oh, I know that one. But again, I hung out with my grandparents a lot, and they were born in like the 1920s. So like as kids, they heard this song and everything. So they taught me it.
They're riding along in the bus, and then they have to stop because there's people stopping them outside, and the bridge has been washed out. They tell them that they can stay here on the bus and wait till the morning, or there's like a campsite up the road, and they can go there for the night. So Peter and Ellie go there, and they rent a room, or rent a little cabin, I guess. And he's talking to her, and she's like wondering why he's helping her and stuff, and he's like, I just want your story.
I want an exclusive story.
Yeah. So, and if she doesn't, then he's going to turn her over to her dad. And so she agrees. So they're getting ready for bed and everything, and he puts up a blanket to separate the two of them because he's like, I like privacy when I sleep. I'm like, okay, that's funny.
I also thought it was a nice gesture because, separated gives her a little bit of space too, and a little comfort and everything.
Yeah. So he finally asks her, or she finally asks him his name. And then we get his name. It's Peter. And we also get this little part where she's like just standing there at the door. Not like she doesn't want to go lay down or anything. She's kind of still skeptical. So he just starts undressing and like giving this whole speech about how he's undressing. Yeah,
I was like, oh, we're watching Clark Gable get undressed on screen. Okay, this is interesting. All right. It doesn't happen very often in these older movies.
No. But then he gets to his pants and she's like, okay, I'm gonna go sit down now.
He lets her borrow a pair of his pajamas.
Yeah. We get some more of her dad looking for her, like going to the authorities and such. Then it's the morning, and he's been up for a while by the time she wakes up, and he like comes in the door, and she's just now waking up and gives her a hard time about it. And she goes to the showers, and this just reminded me of summer camp when I was little. The line for the showers being so long. And then there was one point when they just started telling us you have 3 minutes to take a shower. And ever since then, I don't take very long showers because I always have it in my head that there's somebody in line behind me needing to take a shower. Because I, like, almost every weekend when I was a kid, I was at camp. And then every summer I was at camp. So it just got to be a habit where I just take super fast showers.
Huh. I never went to camp. Like, ever. But that did remind me of, like, I did do, Catholic thing. It's like a retreat, and we had showers too, and there was always a line, and I'm still scarred from that. Yeah, it was like we had like not even 3-minute showers, and we had to turn the water off, but like if you weren't using it, like to like put shampoo or something like that.
Dang.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy like that. I was scarred from that because one of the people decided to, after getting out of the shower, decided just, dry themselves off in front of everybody and completely naked. I'm like, I don't need to see this. I'm like 16. I don't need to see this.
But so she gets back from the showers and they have breakfast. He's been cooking breakfast for her and she has a donut. They both have donuts and an egg and some coffee. And she tells him that this is the first time that she has ever been alone with a man. And he teaches her how to dunk a donut because she's like sitting there holding it in the coffee. And he's like, no, that's not how you do it.
He's like, it's going to get all soaked up and it's going to fall into the coffee and then your donut and coffee's ruined.
Yeah. So she like peels off that part and then just eats half the donut. And I'm like, that's a waste of a good donut.
Right?
Just eat it with a fork.
It's like, you don't have to dunk it into the coffee. You can just eat it like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't drink coffee, so I just eat donuts. I love donuts. But anyways, So the detectives show up at the little camp place, and they're like going and looking for Ellie, of course. And they go into the cabin that Peter and Ellie are in and show a picture to them. And so Peter starts like arguing with Ellie. And he's not expecting her to chime in. And at first she's just kind of sitting there staring at him dumbfounded with her hair kind of hiding half her face like she was getting ready for the day. And then she actually starts joining in.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I did like this part. It was really funny. But so the detectives are like, okay, we're leaving. Then the guy comes in and says that the bus is leaving in 5 minutes.
The newspaper is still getting telegrams from Peter about, like, the story that he's doing and everything.
Yep. And then we see that her dad is offering a reward.
For $10,000.
Yep. And Shapley sees in the newspaper about the reward and recognizes the picture. And, like, gets a bright idea. Goes and talks. He eventually will go talk to Peter. Oh, and this is where the band was on the bus. Sorry.
It's okay.
But so, this is where the band's on the bus because the bus gets stuck in the mud. And so they're all kind of having fun.
Yeah.
Before the bus gets stuck in the mud and then it gets stuck in the mud.
And there's a lady on the bus who passes out.
Yeah.
And there's a little kid with her and he's like so upset and everything. And so,
that little kid was like the only acting that I didn't like. I was like, he just is not very good. Because I've seen a ton of really good kid actors.
Yeah.
And he's not one of them.
It's like, it was only a bit part, so I couldn't expect too much from him.
Yeah, but that was one of the only ones I was just like, okay. So, but Peter kind of distracts the kid while everybody's trying to figure out what's wrong with his mom and stuff. And he's about to give the kid some money, but then Ellie comes over and starts talking to him, and then Ellie takes the money out of Peter's hand and gives it to the kid. And then this is where Shapley talks to Peter about trying to convince Peter to turn in Ellie and split the reward.
And Peter threatens him.
Yeah. So then the bus is obviously stuck, so they're not going anywhere. So her and Peter run off in the woods. Ellie and Peter. And Peter says that she gave that kid all of the money that they had left. So they're kind of gallivanting through the woods, and I'm just like, this is really funny. Like, her not really knowing what to do in the woods is... I'm just like, well, I don't understand that, because I grew up playing in the woods, so I don't know. I just don't ever understand it when people don't know how to walk in the woods. Like, you just walk like a normal person. But that's just me.
But this is also, you gotta think about, this is a girl from the city who is born into wealth, who probably did not ever get to do that stuff.
Yeah, I don't care. Just walk like a normal person. I really don't care.
There's me being sympathetic, and then there's you.
Yeah, I'm not sympathetic. Just walk like a normal person. It's not that hard. So, they come across this river, and Peter's gonna carry her across, and she keeps calling it piggyback, and he's like, this is not piggybacking. And they have an entire argument about piggybacking, and I'm just like, wow, that sounds like an argument that me and Sean would have.
Yeah, that sounds like me and Logan, too.
It's not really anything that's pertinent, like, it's not important, but it's definitely something that would happen. And you only really get that from people who have been together for a while, because at that point they're out of things to argue about, so they argue about stupid little things.
Stupid little shit.
And it's not really like they were getting mad at each other or anything, and that's not what those little arguments are. They're just like fun banter, really. So I thought that was cool. So they come across like this barn or something, and that's where they're going to stay for the night.
Yeah, and Peter's making like he pulls the hay out, is making like little beds for them.
Yeah.
And Ellie's complaining that she's hungry.
Yeah. And he like go and get carrots or something.
He does go
like,
and get carrots.
He like peels the skin off and stuff, so it's somewhat acceptable. I still feel like he needed to wash them, but she's like, "Why are you eating raw carrots?" And I'm just like, "Why are you not eating raw carrots?"
It's like if you were hungry, you wouldn't be bitching if they were raw.
I like raw carrots.
So do I.
I'm not very big on cooked ones, but I like raw ones.
Yeah, I like raw ones better.
But so they go to sleep and stuff, and then it's the next morning, and they are hitchhiking. And this is where I fell asleep.
Yeah, the hitchhiking thing. So he's telling her, like, the different ways, like, you can hitchhike, you know, like, you can do, like, oh, I got, like, a story to tell, like, with the way you're hitchhiking, or, you know, like, different things, like, the different ways you hitchhike. And so he tries showing her the different ways to these cars passing by. None of them stop. And so she goes, "Can I try?" And he's like, "You?" And he's like, "All right." And then she goes to the side of the row and lifts her skirt up just enough to show some leg. And a car stops immediately.
That's funny.
And so they get a ride. And the driver is just singing just terribly off tune.
Oh, God.
This song. And I was like, stop. Please stop. Great that you like to sing, but you're just so out of, like, off key and off tune. It sounds terrible.
I would have got out of the car.
Yes, they stop. And, Peter was, yelling at Ellie. And then he's like, "I'm sorry. I should not have been yelling at you." And, so they stop because the guy wants to, you know, grab something to eat a little bit. And they're like, "Oh, no, we're good." So he goes in. They get out of the car and everything. And the guy tries to leave without him. With Peter's suitcase still in the back. And so Peter literally runs after the guy.
Oh.
And it's a little bit later. And you see Peter driving the car.
Oh.
And he's got, like, a cut on his head. And everything. And he's like, "That dude tried to steal our stuff." And he's like, "I kicked it, you know, I fought him and I tied him to a tree. So I got a car."
Yeah.
And Ellie's, like, trying to, like, with a little, you know, handkerchief, trying to just, like, clean him up a little bit.
Gotcha.
And she eats a carrot.
Oh.
She does
really?
eat a carrot. She finally gives in and eats a carrot.
Huh.
Her dad is talking with King and everything. And he says, like, you know, "I'm just worried about her and everything. You know, I don't really know you very well, but you seem like an okay guy. So, you know what? Let's just tell the newspaper that you want her back. And then I'm fine with your marriage and everything, so she can come home."
Gotcha.
And so that's what the newspaper says, that for Ellie just to come home and everything. Dad's not going to interfere with anything.
Gotcha.
And then they stop at the little cabin place for the night.
Talking and stuff, and she knows that they're getting close to being in New York, and she's asking him if she will ever see him again. They're talking about, he's asking her about, like, being in love and stuff. At this point, they've kind of started falling for each other.
Yeah, she's asking Peter, like, he's like, "Well, if you've ever been, like, in love." He's like, "I don't think I've met, like, the one yet." He's like, "I thought I did, but didn't work out." And he's like, "What I would like to go do is, like, I'd like to go to an island and just, you know, be secluded from everybody and everything." And
Yeah.
then she spills the beans. Ellie says, proclaims her love for Peter and everything.
Yeah. And she doesn't want him to leave. And he just doesn't really say anything.
No, he's like, you should probably just go back to bed.
Yeah. And then they go to sleep, and she's like crying herself to sleep and stuff. And he gets up and leaves in the middle of the night to go to New York to get money from the paper guy, like kind of pitch his story and stuff and get an advance on writing the story so that he can run away with Ellie. But he doesn't leave a note.
Nothing. Leaves nothing. Doesn't tell her anything.
So when she wakes up, she is upset because he's gone, because these people come and like wake her up. The people that own the cabin, like little campsite place. They don't take anybody in there. They just go in there and they wake her up, and then they realize that he's gone. And that's where she's like super upset. And
they ask her if she has any money. And she's like, well, no.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, so you gotta leave.
Yeah.
Can't pay for the room, you gotta leave.
Yeah. She is like on her way out and stuff. And it's like this big huge race to get to Ellie, because Peter's like on his way, and then all the cops and her dad are on their way, and it's just like this big huge thing.
Yeah, because she called, she asked the hotel people if she can borrow their phone, and they're like, there is the like police station or something just a little bit down, you can use their phone. And so she does call her dad to get her.
Yeah. And
with this, before that, Peter had gone to his old job and everything, and he like gives him like the story he had written, and he tells his boss and everything about it. And he's like, and the boss is gonna he's like, oh my god, this is a big story. So he's like calling people, trying to get them to change the headlines before it gets printed and everything.
Yeah.
What happens was, that police escort passes Peter up and everything, and they're coming back with Ellie, and he's stuck on the other side because of a train.
Yeah. So the police and her dad get there before Peter does, and so she goes with them, and she's like super upset because Peter left her, and he thinks that he doesn't love her and all that. And so she is gonna get married to King again, because at some point their other marriage got annulled.
It's like she says she wants to have it like a real thing.
Yeah. So she's like talking to her dad and telling him like how upset she is about Peter and stuff. And then her dad's telling her that he got a telegram from Peter, but not asking about her, just saying that he wants to talk. So he just thinks it's about the reward that her dad had put out for her. And that makes Ellie upset, thinking once again that Peter doesn't have any interest in her. So Peter shows up to talk to her father, and he's like talking to her, saying that he doesn't want the whole $1,000 or $10,000 or however much it was. All he wants is what he spent on her. And it was like $39 or something.
Yeah, that's it. And like the dad's like, okay, so you don't want the money, you just want what's, he's like, I'll gladly pay for what you spent on her. He's like, do you love her? And he's like, doesn't answer him at first and everything. And then he admits it after a bit.
Yep. And so Peter is leaving while Ellie is having this big, huge, like, party thing. And, so they see each other, and she kind of like starts to ignore him, but he just walks out. And you can see it on her face. She's a little upset because she's still mad at him. And then her dad goes and talks to her, and she's like trying to convince her that she needs to be with Peter, not with King. And she's like already determined to marry King, so she's like, whatever, I'm not listening to you. And
I like how the dad says, he's like, there's gonna be a car waiting. You know, if you change your mind, there's gonna be a car waiting at the back.
Yeah.
Hint, hint.
Yeah, he's like trying to give her every opportunity to leave, and she's just like not listening.
So like the wedding starts and everything, they all come in.
Yeah.
You know, they start trying to do the like, you know, do you accept, you know, her as your wife? And he's like, yeah. King says yeah. And then when they ask Ellie, she doesn't say anything and she just books it.
Yeah.
She just leaves.
Yep.
And jumps into the car that's waiting.
Yep. And she meets up with Peter, and then they're in this cabin.
Yeah.
And the like runner guy, like the guy that runs the cabin, was talking to somebody. I think it was maybe his wife or something. And they're like, oh, he just asked for a rope, a blanket, and a trumpet.
Yeah. And he's saying that the dad says that the annulment went through and everything.
Yeah.
And he paid King off. Be like, okay, go away.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And then we hear like the walls of Jericho, because that's what they kept calling that blanket, is the wall of Jericho.
So the walls of Jericho are crumbling or something.
Yeah.
I was like, that's naughty.
Yeah.
Naughty. I was like,
yeah.
But cool that you slipped that into a movie in the 1930s.
Yeah. And then that's it.
Yeah.
That's the movie. So the music for this is by Howard Jackson. He is known for Mr. Deeds Goes to Town from 1936, Dizzy Dames from 1935, Torchy Runs for Mayor from 1939, and The Old Homestead from 1935. His very first movie that he worked on was Broadway in 1929. And as of right now, he's not working on anything because he did pass away in like 1960s, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So, anything that we get from him, if there is anything that his music's in, they just put it in there. But I did like the music for this. I felt like it worked really well.
Yeah, it wasn't distracting. It fit well with the storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all on that, really. There's not a lot on the music. The comparison, I didn't get the chance to read the short story because, like I said, I just found it this morning. So, I don't really know. The only thing I do know is that the short story was called Night Bus, which I feel like makes more sense for this than It Happened One Night. Because I'm just like, that title's a little bit confusing because this is multiple nights. So, I felt like Night Bus is a little bit better of a title. But that's all I got on that. I don't really know much from the story. So, trivia. I do have one.
Go ahead.
So, Claudette Colbert did not want to work with Frank Capra because she had worked with him once before this movie, and that movie didn't go over very well, so she wasn't too keen on doing this movie. But she did it anyways. And look how it turned out. It's like one of the best movies of her career, so.
Yeah, she did like 3 movies that year.
Yeah.
It was funny because it says she didn't really want to do it. Neither did Clark Gable.
Yeah.
It's like both of them were like, all right, let's just get this over with. And guess what happened? They both won the Oscar for it.
Yeah.
It's like, so.
None of them wanted to do it, and then it ended up being like the best thing.
Yeah. So when we were talking about the Oscars thing earlier, how we're saying is like the first one to do like the big 5.
Yeah.
2 others. I was right. It's 2 others.
Okay.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
which we have on our list for later.
And another one on our list, Silence of the Lambs.
Awesome.
Right? I was like, I love both of those movies too. So I'm like, this is great.
That's awesome.
I was like, it's funny though, is for like the Silence of the Lambs, because, you know, it's Anthony Hopkins that won. He wasn't even on screen for a long time, but he still won.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, but it worked out. What was it? There is a mention of how this movie helped inspire Bugs Bunny.
Huh. Oh yeah, because Shapley, they like
Shapley's personality. Yeah.
Personality for Bugs Bunny, I know.
Yep. Peter eating like the carrots really like, you know, quickly and talking at the same time, like Bugs does.
Yeah.
And in what was it? When Peter's threatening Shapley, he's like, oh yeah, me and like this guy Bugs are the ones, you know, like kidnapped, you know, Ellie and like getting the reward. And that's part of it. That's where you get part of the name Bugs comes from.
Okay.
I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, so this movie helped inspire like the name and like the personality of Bugs Bunny. Like, that is really cool. Awesome. Yeah. I was like, because everyone, I know most people love Bugs Bunny. So.
Yeah. That is really cool.
I love
Oh, and then I
Go ahead.
Did have one more I just thought of.
Go ahead.
In the bus scene where the band is going and stuff and the people are singing, the third guy to sing is, I don't remember if they said it was because I was listening to something about this, trying to find out more about it and stuff. And I don't remember if they said it was the director that was that third guy or if it was the author of the Night Bus little short story.
It was the director.
Okay. I was like, one of those two. So, the director was the third guy in there.
Yeah, it was the director.
Singing.
Trying to think what else. I mean, the funny part is, so this is made by Columbia Pictures, and what happens is that other, like, film, you know, companies would loan out their actors to this one if they got in trouble. So that's how Clark Gable got in this movie. That's how Claudette got in this movie. So they got in trouble with the original ones, and they had to do this. That's probably part of the reason why they were like, "Ugh, let's just get this over with."
Okay. Oh, and then I had one more.
Go.
Sorry.
You're fine. Keep going.
So, you know how Clark Gable's doing that undressing thing? He did have an undershirt on, like the little tank top things.
Yes.
He had one of those on, but it was like disrupting the flow because, he was keeping eye contact with Claudette the entire time he was doing that whole bit. And the undershirt, he would have had to pull it off over his head so that broke the eye contact. So they just made him take it off completely and start over. And then after that, sales in undershirts started to decline because they're like, oh, Clark Gable's not wearing them, then we're not going to wear them. So they started to decline, and so like some of the major companies that made those undershirts were trying to sue Clark Gable because he made it unpopular to wear them.
Yeah, I read something about that. I was like, well, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of a funny one. So
I got one more.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a romantic comedy, right?
Yeah.
They never kiss.
Yeah, that's true.
Never.
Not that we see.
That we see on screen.
Because, the walls of Jericho did come down, so.
Yeah, but that's implied. But we don't ever see it, ever on screen.
Yeah.
Which is pretty unusual, so.
I think that's all the trivia I've got.
Yeah, same.
So, where it has been on the list before and where it's at today. In 2010 and 2012, it was at number 140. In 2014, it was number 149. 2016, it was number 188. Or no, number 182. 2018, it was number 188. And then, as of today, when we were recording, it is number 228. So it is dropping quite a bit.
It's because of
And
these
I
new
feel like
movies.
it's new movies and just people don't really know this movie. So I feel like that's what it is, really.
That's a crime.
Yeah. Because I do definitely feel like if you, like we had said with the, or like I said with Joan of Arc, if you like movies or you love movies or anything like that, then I feel like this is definitely a movie that needs to be watched. Like, you need to have at least seen this movie once.
Yeah, especially this one. I mean, it's like one of the first romantic comedies. Even if you're not a romantic comedy person, still, it's a good comedy movie.
Yeah. And there's so many so many romantic comedies that are inspired by this movie. So I feel like it's definitely one that needs to be not falling off of this list, because I feel like a lot of people go off this list on movies to watch. So
yeah, and I feel like it needs to stay on the list. And like all these other romantic comedies, I'm sorry, but they cannot hold a candle to this one.
Yeah. So, previously, number 185, in 2010, Star Trek from 2009. Sorry, Star Trek from 2009. Star Trek. That's what I said. The 2012 list, Persona from 1966, which we watched previously. The 2014 list, Ben-Hur from 1959, which we watched previously. The 2016 list, Hotel Rwanda from 2004, which we watched previously. The 2018 list, Life of Brian from 1979, which is coming up.
I'm so excited.
Then today when we are recording, number 185 is Gone Girl from 2014, which is coming up as well. So, that's all of that. So our podcast trivia here, let me pull it up real quick. So this is the second oldest movie that we have had at this point. Obviously last week was our oldest one, from 1928, the Passion of Joan of Arc. This is 6 years older than that, from 1934. And then the next one is 5 years older than this, which is The Wizard of Oz from 1939. And then this has the same amount of votes, or right around the same amount of votes, not exactly the same, but right around the same, as Touch of Evil and Persona.
And Touch of Evil and Persona are like two completely different movies from each other.
Yeah. So, that is that. So, favorite line.
I was just laughing so much. I didn't write down that many. I wrote down 3.
Okay.
I'll do mine. I've won a lot of arguments with a lead pipe.
Alright.
When a cold mama gets hot, she sizzles.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
And this one, actually, I knew this line before I saw the movie. It says, do you love her? Yes, but I'm a little screwy. Don't hold that against me.
Yeah. Mine, I come from a long line of stubborn idiots. That was my absolute favorite. And then you took a couple of mine. So the only other one that I wrote down that you didn't write was, Do You Love My Daughter? But my favorite is, I come from a long line of stubborn idiots. That's my favorite.
I'm not gonna lie, that's a really good one.
You want to go with that one?
Yes.
Okay. And that's right at the beginning of the movie, too. So what is your rating?
It's an 8.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said before, I love Clark Gable. I love her comedies. It's a great director, great acting. It just fit more. Again, it just fit with my 8s. It didn't fit with the 9s. It didn't fit with the 7s. It fit right with my other 8s. So that's why I put it with that. But again, I really liked this movie. I did. Like,
Okay.
I might watch it again sometime if I have, if I have the time, I'll watch it again. I will.
Okay. So, I gave this a 6, which is a lot higher. Like, going into it, I thought it was going to be like a 2 or a 3. I was not expecting it to be this high. But, I actually did enjoy it for the most part. Obviously, I fell asleep, like I said. There was some stuff that I was just like, okay, I could live without this. But then I really liked Peter, Clark Gable's character. He was very sarcastic and very funny.
You're gonna love him in Gone with the Wind, then. Ugh.
Okay. And I feel like it was a very well put together movie. And I'm pretty glad that I watched it. I feel like I didn't waste my time watching it, so. And also, like you said, I was looking through, it's just the way it has to be ranked now. We've watched so many movies, but I was like looking through, and I was like, it just really fits with my other 6s, so that's just where I put it.
And that's also a comedy.
Yeah.
For you, so it's already a little
lower. Yeah, there's a few comedies, I don't know, like, it just has to be the right way. Like, when we get to Monty Python and the Holy Grail, that one's going to be kind of high up for me just because of the type of humor it is.
I was like...
as well as what it's about. So.
I was like, oh my god. I love that movie. Ugh.
But yeah. So, this one is a 6 for me.
I'm surprised it's that high, but I'm glad of it. I am.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised it was that high, too. So, our next film is Rang di Basanti from 2006, and that is a Hindi movie, I believe.
Yes.
It is available on Netflix at the moment, so
I was like, that's what I'm
check
watching
it out
it
if you
on.
haven't seen it.
I was like, that's what I'm going to watch it on for sure.
Yeah, make sure you check it out if you haven't seen it.
It's almost 3 hours, though, just a heads up.
Good to know, so I probably will watch it tomorrow after the football game.
I was like, yeah, it's 2 hours and 47 minutes.
Yeah, so I will probably watch that after football tomorrow, after the Cowboys play. So make sure you check that out. It will be out next week, I believe. Just making sure it'll be out next week. Just making sure there was nothing interfering with it, and there wasn't. So our next event is our holiday event, and that is coming up at the end of December. This will be Babes in Toyland from 1986 and Krampus from 2015 are the ones that I picked.
And I picked Santa Claus is Coming to Town from 1970 and The Nightmare Before Christmas from 1993.
And I was doing a little bit of math last night, and The Nightmare Before Christmas is our 100th episode.
Oh.
If you're including all of our events and all of our, just our events and the ones on the list, Nightmare Before Christmas is our 100th episode.
That's awesome.
So. Yeah, I figured you'd get a kick out of that.
It deserves it.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. So we are offering premium. If you would like to become a premium member, just go to our website, catandjusttalkthebest at our .podbean.com, and you just go over to the right, scroll down a little bit, and you can get subscribed for just $1 a month. You will get uncut episodes, early release episodes, and a special monthly episode. Or for $5 a month, you'll be able to get all of that, plus be able to join us for a movie of your choice every 50 movies, or you can select an event to join us for. Our special episode for November is Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman. We're going to discuss them and some of their movies, why we like them, and also their impact on cinema, I guess, really.
Yeah. As like me, I can include the musical world with Hugh Jackman, which I'm going to.
Of course.
You can actually include for Jake Gyllenhaal, like, theater.
Yeah, because he was a huge theater actor. So make sure you check that out, because that will be cool. And it will be available for non-premium members for just $1. So if you are interested, please check that out. all of those proceeds, premium and special bonus episodes, all of that just goes to paying for the website. If you could leave us ratings and reviews, if you can't support us monetarily, then ratings and reviews are another way to do that without paying any money. Lets us know how we're doing, what we're doing good, and what we're not doing very well. And also, it helps other people find the show. So if you could do that, that'd be great. You could talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or you can email us. You can find all of our episodes on our website. And our music is by Audio Binger. You can find him on Facebook, YouTube, and his website, audiobinger.net. And until next time, thank you so much for listening. And thank you so much for sharing the show with your friends. Really appreciate it. We will catch you next week with Ring di Basante. Bye.
Bye.